All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. We're going to be working and trying to accomplish my lifelong goal of footlocking the world. So I think there's been a lot of emphasis on all the different kinds of leg locks, all kinds of heel hooks and knee bars and all kinds of things. I think one of the things that in all of this has been neglected is having a real devastating and world-class straight ankle attack. The reason that I like teaching this, I teach this very early on in curriculum, is straight ankles are legal for all adult white belts. So it's something that you should be exposed to, I think, very early on. And given the extremely new development of being very leg lock heavy, particularly in no-gi, it's good to start getting exposure to these positions, even if you never intend on doing a majority of your attacks via leg locks. You're going to want to be intimately familiar with the position, how to escape the position, what good breaking mechanics feel like. And for people who are going to be delving into the art of leg locks, you're going to have a framework. So rather than just like learning a bunch of random moves, you're going to learn the underlying framework of modern jiu-jitsu in an applicable form right away. So you don't have to wait until you're a purple belt or brown belt or black belt to learn how to control, how to maintain distance, how to break people down. Okay, you can start going into the basic fundamentals of being able to leg lock people and being very safe because you're not doing things that are more advanced or too advanced for your level. And I think that there's a lot of success to be had now that we've had all this development in heel hooks. There's definitely a hierarchy in jiu-jitsu when it comes to the footlocks, and the heel hooks are at the highest point of that hierarchy, but you're usually not exposed to those until later on in your career. Once you learn the control mechanisms and everything that we're going to work on today, implementing the breaking mechanics of heel hooks or knee bars or toe holds is going to be very easy for you. That's actually the easiest part. The hard part is learning to maintain long-term control, particularly in no-gi, when you don't have friction, you don't have collars, you don't have things to grab onto. So we're going to look at how I teach the straight ankle, the system that I teach to everyone, and how that's going to play into your development in the leg locks in the future. All right, guys, we're going to get started with the first point of clarification. When I first started learning about particularly straight ankles, I oftentimes have heard it referred to, I would say incorrectly, as an Achilles lock. You might still hear people talk about it like that today. The first thing you want to do is know that you are not really attacking the Achilles tendon. The Achilles tendon is an extraordinarily difficult tendon to rupture. You essentially have to create a tear in the tendon. And this tendon is meant, this is like your running tendon. It's meant to absorb large amounts of force, okay? So actually what we're doing to get a really strong break out of our straight ankle is we're learning to rotate and attack the outside of the foot here, right? Where you're already starting to feel that kind of breaking pressure on the outside of the foot, right? And I'm creating that tension through the engagement of my lat and a 10-finger grip. So the first grip that I always teach is a 10-finger grip. So you're going to have the grip that's coming over the leg, and then I'm going with a 10-finger grip up towards my chin, and I get the tap here, okay? This is obviously not a realistic finishing position, all right? But I want to set the roadmap of where my hands are going to be when I want to finish. This is the single greatest point of failure that I have seen throughout my career for people who are doing straight ankles, is their hands start to drift away from their head as they go to engage, and it alleviates the pressure. It allows him to very easily start turning his foot or turning his body over, and you can escape that foot here, as I'm very, very shallow here. So if he just turns his foot and escapes, right, easy for him to get out. So I want to maintain that tight pressure. Notice how he has to elevate his hips. It's because the breaking pressure is already on. And look how high my hand is relative to my chin. Okay? So I always start with my warm-ups. The very first thing that I have my students do is we start initiating the principle of resistance of the secondary leg. So one of the common themes in jiu-jitsu for legs, and this is true for straight ankles, pretty much any leg lock, the primary resistance of my hands is going to come from that secondary leg, right? So if I don't engage that secondary leg at all, he can just bring his feet, push off easily escapes. So you should start building that habit right away of thinking consciously about how do I interfere with that secondary leg. So we put on our doorstop here, get a nice little drill going, where we're just bringing our hands until we get the tap, okay? Is this going to be a position that you actually finish people in? No, but it starts building the muscle memory of where you want your hands to be at the point where we get the finish later on in the technique. So the first thing that I want to outline is what I don't want to see once we've worked on getting our hand position and getting used to our hands being into the right breaking mechanic, okay? There's a lot of different names. All different schools have different kind of names, okay? You might hear this as Ashi, short for Ashigarami, which just means leg entanglement. Or you might hear it as like single leg X, or some schools say one leg X. Here's what I want to focus on. I want to focus on how we're controlling this here, which is our primary leg. This is the leg that I'm attacking. That's why it's the primary leg. What I don't want to see, I don't want to see where one foot is coming to the hip and the other foot is circling underneath here, okay? This is not going to give you a strong breaking mechanic, all right? Because it doesn't give me long-term control. If he starts scooting his butt away, it's very easy for him to start extracting that leg, okay? So one of the key details is my inside foot is actually going to go on the cross-side hamstring or towards his glute here, and then I'm going to be scissoring my legs down and up, okay? The fundamental thing is it's not a pinch, okay? Because you don't want to use your adductors and abductors because those are mechanically weak. You want to use the strong muscles of your leg by back heeling and then driving this knee to cover this part of my ankle here, okay? This creates what I call the closed circuit. So you see how there's connection here. And you'll know that it's good because I don't even have to use my hands. He just tries to scoot away. Scoot away hard, 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 hard. Notice how he takes me with him, okay? If I don't move with him, it means I don't have good control. Same thing, my feet are in this position, the non-desirable position. He pulls hard and he starts to slip out, okay? He should physically be dragging me across the mat if he's just trying to scoot away, okay? I'm going with him here. And again, hard, hard, hard. Notice, I'm just going with him, okay? So that's going to give us the indication that we are in the correct configuration. Also, understand what your rule sets are. If you're a white belt or a blue belt or a purple belt doing this, in no-gi for IBJJF, we want to avoid reaping. Okay, lots of controversy around reaping. I have very strong opinions about this, but the rules are what the rules are. So if you're newer, you cannot reap. Reaping is defined fundamentally as your outside leg in this Ashi position or single leg X position coming across the center line here like this. Okay? In most tournaments, this is going to be an automatic disqualification. You might get lucky, they might just reset you, they might pull it off. But under most terms, definitionally, this is automatic disqualification, so we want to avoid doing that. Okay? So, for the purposes of this drill, the correct placement of the foot is going to be wedging onto the hip, maybe coming into with my toes on his ribs here. That's kind of the visual cue that my foot is in the right place. Then my other foot is going underneath the butt, scissoring, connecting, closing off that circuit, hiding that foot, makes it much harder for him to separate here. Then, so this is our control position. Once we learn to master this position, then we start re-gripping our hands to get into our breaking position. Okay, so you're going to learn this in phases. First, you're learning what it feels like to have your hands in the right place. Then we're learning to get into the proper control position, and we're putting those two features together in order to get a strong breaking mechanic out of our straight ankle attack. Okay? All right, now we're going to break it down into our very first finish. This is going to be the most common finish. So this is going to be our traditional Ashi with a lat grip finish. Okay, so we're going to be looking at how we get our hands into the placements and when we get our feet properly into what I call that closed circuit that we talked about before. So we're going to get into the closed circuit, we're going to connect our hands, and then we're going to look at how we go into the most dominant braking mechanic possible. You do want to try to get your grip just over the leg as quickly as possible, but we're going to make these adjustments later. Always know that I can make my adjustments downward at any time. I'm going to show you guys the techniques on how we do that. Okay? The most important aspect of every leg lock, doesn't matter which leg lock it is about controlling what we call the knee line. Okay? If you know anything about leg locks, it's about making sure that my knees are staying above his knee that I'm attacking. At any point where his knee escapes my two knees, I have lost this position, and I need to start battling to recover, reset, and start going back in. And we'll look at some ways to do that as well. All right, but just keep that theme in mind, is that if I lose the knee line, I've lost the position. Much like when I'm doing an arm bar, if I lose the elbow down to the mat, I've lost the arm bar position. Notice there's a direct analogy between the type of limb that we're attacking, the leg, ball and socket joint, hinge joint, a foot that pronates and supinates a little bit, and then a hand. Pronates, supinates, elbow joint, ball and socket joint of the shoulder. So there's a good analogy between the arm and the leg here as far as how we're controlling. When you want to get a devastating break, you want to control the entire kinetic chain. You want to control all the joints accompanying the joint that I'm attacking. So I want to control the knee line, and by doing so, I'm pinning the hip and I'm controlling the ankle all at the same time. Once I have control all the way up and down the leg here, then I'm going to be able to get the proper break. So closed circuit, hand grip, 10-finger grip. I want to be bringing my hands as close as I can to my chin. I cannot overstate the importance of having your hands and chin connection as tight as possible. I said this before, this is the single greatest point of failure. As people go to extend, their hand goes down to the waist. You'll see this all the time. And their head comes out here. If they don't come together, you will not get the finish. Okay? So what I can do, the primary way that I move down is I learn to roll my shoulders until I get the foot caught into my lat. Okay, again, I'm rolling the toes. So my hand and chin come together and I start extending. Okay, look, Ruslan is already tapping, but I haven't started. Okay, I haven't started my braking mechanic yet. The true braking mechanic comes when I take my elbow, and I'll be gentle, into my hip here. Okay, so now I've started the break. Okay, but I haven't finished. Now I can get on my shoulder, so I go from my elbow to the cap of my shoulder, and now everything's connected. Look, he already tapped. And then from here I would extend my hands and spine together. See how early he's tapping in this position. Let's look at it again. First, control position. I have to control, so I need distance and connection, connecting my legs to his legs here. Okay, now I get my 10-finger grip, but look, I'm high. So I'm very hard to actually break his shin bone here, okay? It can happen in a devastating way, but very, very hard. I want to take his toes and pinch them with my lat like this. So as I roll to the base of his foot, look, I can start seeing part of his ankle, and he's already feeling it here. See? He wants to tap here, but I haven't started. Okay, chin to hands. Take that elbow into my hips. Look, he taps here. Okay? In a world where he's being a stubborn Russian, doesn't want to tap, right? I would full extend my hips and hands here for the break. Okay? He's being very intelligent today. Wants to walk home. All right? So in practice, we go very slow, give them plenty of time to tap. But you see the end range extension that we have here, that I can extend my hands and chin together. The most important thing is that the distance between my chin and my hands should not change through this range of motion as I engage my hips. I'm constantly trying to bring my hands to my face. I always say it's like you're doing an upright row with a weight, is I'm trying to pull those hands here. Okay? And here's why. this is why I like the foot lock, particularly this straight ankle, so much, is because this is quintessentially jiu-jitsu for me, all right? I'm taking and I'm trying to recruit the large muscle groups of my body, and I'm channeling them into a very small, vulnerable joint of my opponent. That's what a joint lock is. So I'm trying to transfer energy that my body can generate throughout and attack a very small, vulnerable joint of my opponent, okay? And you can feel this when you drill it if you really start trying to make the mind to muscle connection. If your hands are low and you try to flex the muscles in your back, you won't feel them as much. As the hands come up, you start to feel the flex in the muscles. You start recruiting more muscles, your trap muscles, your lats, your mid back. You're going to be recruiting all of those muscles, and you're transferring that energy into your hands. And then the final braking mechanic comes from the extension of our hips. So I've already taken the slack out of this joint with all the large upper body muscles that I've engaged through my back into my hand. I tuck them in, still transferring that pressure, and then I apply multiplication of force through my hips and extension. Okay? If you find yourself in competition, I know I've been here too, and you're down here and you're like this, and they haven't tapped, then there's no chance you did it correctly. You failed long before you ever got there. Okay? So if you're practicing and you're getting your head fully extended and their leg hasn't literally broken in half, then it means that you have misapplied the technique. And most likely, your hands drifted as you extended. Number one place you're going to get it wrong. All right. So, we've gone into the closed circuit finish, okay? But in a system of leg locks, we actually have a better finish from the position that I just showed you. And actually, I've been very surprised, even at high-level brown belts, matches I've won in ADCC Opens, ADCC Trials, and IBJJF Opens. Usually, a very good opponent won't allow this to happen. But I've done it to a bunch of brown belts, so it can definitely happen against people who are at a mid-range or more regional level. Okay? And so when we're attacking, we want to have a preference of closed wedges versus open wedges. Now, in the human body, there's really no such thing as a true closed wedge. All right? Really what we're doing is what's known as a reinforced wedge. So let's look at the difference in our connection. So what I showed before, I call this a closed circuit, but it's not a reinforced wedge. Okay? The best braking mechanic for control is actually going to come from extracting this foot and reinforcing the wedge on the outside here. Okay? Preliminarily, I want to have this knee up because my friend from Kazakhstan here is going to be very good at defending, right? Very intelligent. He's going to start grabbing my head, pulling me to him, trying to alleviate the pressure. Okay? So I have reinforced wedges with my feet, and I have a wedge with my knee that makes it much harder for him to reach and defend my hands. Okay? Very hard in no-gi. In the gi, he can grab my collar, so he has more of a fighting chance. But in no-gi, if I can keep this wedge here, this is going to make it even harder for him to get into a defensive position, right? He's got long arms, so he's got a better chance. But it's very hard with this leg here. And then we go through our same finishing mechanic. Everything is identical, okay? I start getting my 10-finger grip, rolling to the base of my foot. I go from my elbow, bring that into my hip, down to my shoulder, and then from here I can extend and get the tap, right? And it's very hard for him to grab anything, right? He can grab this arm, but even one-handed, I could still get a pretty strong break here, okay? So let's look at that one more time. We'll change the angle here. It's extraordinarily basic, okay? What he should be doing, and so maybe now I'll meet more resistance at higher levels, is he should be fighting this foot coming over before it gets there, right? He can use his outside foot. He can peel that foot. That's very common. Or he can just block this foot. Let's go back. He can just, as I'm extracting, he can V-grip there, or he can V-grip with that hand here, like that, and not let it come That's what should happen. But I've been amazed at how many times that hasn't happened, right? I'll be attacking here, and I'll just take that foot out and cross those feet. So if your opponents give you this position, always take it, because it's a reinforced wedge, right? Because let's look at what he wanted to do. He wants to peel this foot and jump over, right? And we'll deal with that. Here, yes. So that's why the reinforced wedge is preferable. Go back. I'm here. Standard closed circuit position into reinforced wedge. Now he tries to peel my feet. Much harder. Not impossible, but I have way more time here. So while he's dealing and messing with my feet, go ahead, he's trying to escape, I'm already locking everything in and getting extension here. Okay? And again, make sure that connection is tight, coming in, going for the ankle there. Okay? So, one more time, we're going from the closed circuit to the reinforced wedge from the traditional Ashi position. Scissoring the legs, cross, hamstring, scissoring, extracting, reinforce, knee up, hand over, get to, this is the hardest transition here to make sure we're at the end. So make sure we're rolling our shoulders, exposing the foot here, might get the tap here. He's being super tough, elbow into the body, extending here, okay? And I would just keep going, full extension until I get the tap. All right, now we're gonna start looking at when our opponent gives us the proper resistance, okay? The straight ankle is easy to resist at the very beginning. So we want to be able to re-pummel and re-attack in order to amplify the effectiveness of our straight ankle, okay? The first one we're going to learn is going to be what I've termed the surfboard, okay? Being able to surf from one leg to the other. This is one of the best skills you can develop long-term in your leg locking ability, because you'll be able to seamlessly attack one foot. I've had people refer to my leg lock game as a nightmare, because it's like the attack never stops. Because as soon as they start extracting and getting past one leg, I'm already back to the other leg. And I'm just going back and forth. So you guys are going to learn how to do that now. When my opponent does the correct thing, right? So he's been super smart. Okay, yeah, he already knows. Okay, he's trying to peel this foot here and hop over. Super simple escape, right? I'm sure anyone who has any exposure to leg locks knows that escape. Okay, so I'm anticipating that. Let's go back. So I know that Ruslan knows how to escape this position. Okay, so before he even starts engaging here, we go back to what we talked about before. Thinking about our secondary leg. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll start gripping. Once I see him do this exact configuration, he starts lifting his hips up, coming over. I'm going to start scooping and going on the other leg. So the moment that he gets over my knee, go ahead. So he jumps over, I re-pummel my legs, and I start locking in the attack on the other leg. Okay? This is what's really going to give you a strong prowess in straight ankle ability, my ability to flow from one leg to another. And once you start doing more advanced leg locks, you're going to be very thankful for the amount of time you put in early on in your career being able to seamlessly make this transition, right? It's a very easy way to have two attacks that are, again, it's a mirror image. Most things in Jiu Jitsu are going to be a mirror image, and you want to be able to practice on both sides of the body, okay? So everything that I'm doing on this side is mirror image attack on the other side. So the mechanics don't change. Let's look at it again. What I'm trying to do is get into this position here where I have both legs. So now I can, again, that's why I call it surfing, right? I can ride the wave of whichever way he goes, I'm just going to the opposite. So he can do it over and over again, and I'm just trying to beat him. I get here, I control this, he jumps over, he jumps back over that way, I come back, and I just try to be faster than him in applying my breaking mechanic, right? Obviously, now I can also try to re-grip here to the stronger preferred finish, and then go for the tap there, okay? Let's look at it again. Nothing super sophisticated here. You just have to get used to getting in and out of the configuration. So we're going our closed circuit here. He hops over. I'm just straightening my other knee bringing it to the outside, bringing that foot here, coming here. Okay? Split this way a little bit. So I'm on the opposite side here. He can do it again. And this is, you can practice this drill right here. He hops over, I shoot, back to here. Right? You can start slow. So go ahead, hop over. He hops all the way over the knee. I bring that, what was the outside knee, to the inside. That foot on the hip. Fall to the other hip. Bring the foot towards the hamstring or towards his glute. Reconnect my feet together. Then he does it again. Jumps over. Same thing, just shrimping my hips out, moving side to side. Okay? And then we just work on doing it faster and faster. Right? He jumps and I go. He jumps and I go. Okay? So, start everything slow, get used to the position, and then learn to transition from foot to foot. It's a very easy way to start making your leg locks much more of a nightmare for your opponents. All right, now we're going to look at a corollary to the surfboard drill that we just did where my opponent is standing. Okay, this is where we're going from Ashi from one side to the other. Because one of the fundamental skills that you have to develop in leg locking is you have to learn to break your opponent down to a hip. There are rare instances where you can actually get a break where the person is standing. There have been some recent demonstrations of that. But the vast majority, almost all of them, are going to come from, when you're going to have effective leg locks, is breaking your opponent down to the hip. So that means when they're in a standing position, we're finding a way to knock them down and bring them down to a hip. So we'll look at how to do that now. My opponent is standing. He's just doing a nice little split here. Okay, and we're just doing an Ashi slide. Some key details here is we want to have the rocking chair back. Okay, I want to get really good at being able to rock and then shoot my hips up side to side. Okay, number one detail is as I Ashi slide in, because I have to have a knee connected to my chest. Gordon talks about this all the time, that he had his match against Boogeyman earlier on in his career, where he shoots Ashi like this and the guy just drops right into mount. Okay, so even the best in the world can make this mistake, so we learn from their mistakes. Okay, anytime I'm shooting for an Ashi slide, one knee has to be to my chest. So as I come in, if he drops his weight onto my shin, now I can kick him forward and still make it into the position. Okay, but if I'm just not thinking and I do this, he should drop in the mount every time. Free points, right? Or free position. Okay? So when we practice, just have your feet together, straight line. All right, I'm just double scoop gripping, scoop to making hooks behind the knees, bringing one knee in, and then I'm shooting my hips up, coming down, alternating side to side. Again, it's the ability to rock and then bring my hips up. Notice I'm not using a whole lot of energy, so you want to try to be very efficient at this. Okay? So you want to try to learn, you don't want to be flat backed and trying to like kip your hips in the air. You want to be rounded, rocking, shooting the hips up, side to side. Okay? So that's the first part of the drill. The second part of the drill, this is where new people struggle the most, is their legs, their knees are only making it here. Remember where our knees were before. I'm trying to get my knees all the way up to his hips. My knees can't get too high. Okay, so I'm going up and over to the side that I'm trying to sweep him to. So again, if this is my primary leg, this knee is going to be inside. Notice, if I'm loose, easy for him to stand. He can start pushing my feet, extracting, backstepping, and he's out. Okay? He should not be able to do this. You are not doing the technique correctly if he has any chance of doing this. Okay? So as I come in and I come up, notice he should go straight down. Okay? Let's look at it again. We're here. Okay? So get ready to fight. As I come up, he doesn't have enough time to strip my feet. Okay? If they're getting into that battle where they're able to strip their feet, it means my hips aren't getting high enough. And it's very subtle, right? I can feel like I'm getting high here. But look, he hasn't fallen over. And he has time to fight and peel. Okay? He should have no time. If he has time to peel, bring your feet into my shoulder blades here. If he has time to peel, it means that your technique is too shallow. It should be so high and over. Did you feel like you had any time to peel? No. Okay. That's how you know you're doing it correctly. Is that I'm breaking them down into that posture and then setting up for my finish. So let's look at it one time, knocking them down, going for the finish. Okay? Remember, knee to the chest, shooting the legs up high, he falls down, I set, 10-finger grip, elbow in, extension of the hip. See how fast that comes on? That's through lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of repetition. So take it slow, learn these steps incrementally, and then work on putting them together for a very strong straight ankle finish. All right, now we're going to look at additional, stronger finishing mechanics based off of resistance, okay? Sometimes your opponent is going to be better at you or faster than you when it comes to that surfboard position. So that one's not always going to work for you. So we have some other very powerful options. We're going to look at the belly down option and then the hips up option. I've successfully hit both of these in competition, and I've had very devastating breaks off of both of these straight ankles in IBJJF competition. So, same exact setup. We're in our traditional outside Ashi with our closed circuit. Our hands are together, okay? Usually you go for this one after you've had some experience with your opponent, like you tried surfing before and he essentially beats you on the way out, okay? So as he peels this foot off and goes to jump over, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my inside leg and I'm gonna go for a shin staple. So like similar when you're doing a knee cut pass. I start to build up, pinning both of my legs, sandwiching his leg between both of my two legs here. Notice I'm still controlling that knee line. And this one I do one-handed, okay? In the gi, you could even grab your own collar. But I do this one no-handed and no gi all the time. Again, making sure that same idea is I'm bringing that hand as high as possible. I'm not posting my arms straight because I want to sink my hips. So what I do is I go down to my forearm for the belly down. Keep everything tight, and watch as I bring my hips forward is when I get the break, okay? So I'm keeping everything pinched and tight, super high here, coming forward, extending my hips, and he taps here, okay? Same coaching here. If this hand slips down, his foot's just gonna come out, like that, okay? So as I go one-handed, I'm wedging this hand. Look, he already wants to tap here, and we'll look at that here. I'm going down to my elbow, and it's the power of my hips that does the break. Notice he's tapping here, okay? But in a world where he doesn't tap there, I sink my hips all the way to the mat for the break, okay? He's being very intelligent, tapping at the appropriate time. You will get people that won't tap here. I had it before where I had to switch through these two different configurations. So I'm here, hand high, already tight, yes? I go down, hip in, look, he taps here, okay? I would keep this here, and then I would sink my hips all the way flat to the mat in order to get the break, okay? That's the first option. Second option. The second option here, exact same pathway, okay? And usually when that one doesn't work, because this guy's just a crazy person and won't tap, then I go to my second option, all right? And I'll talk about why I prefer that one first. We go to our second option. I scissor, he jumps over, I come up, I go belly down here, okay? He taps, but maybe he doesn't tap. So I come back up. I go back to my 10-finger grip, and I extend my hips all the way to the sky. Very strong, yes? Bringing my chin down, hands up, breaking here. Same thing. I have full extension. Look, I would try to come all the way up here, as high as I possibly could. I had a Brazilian at IBJJF Worlds whose foot popped 5 times before he actually never tapped. He screamed really loudly, and they called the match. Okay? So you go here, he taps here. And I would just keep my hands and chin connected and keep going all the way up till you hear tap or some loud pops. So we had option 1, going belly down here. Option 2, I can go right into it, hands high, coming here. Look, he already tapped. Look at the adjustment. Very subtle. My hands are in my midsection. My hands are a little bit higher, and he just taps. Okay, I didn't even engage my hips. I just cinched my hands more. And then if he's still not tapping, then I would bring my hips involved. Okay, so make sure you've cinched your hands 100%, then engage the hips. That's when you're going to get maximum breaking potential. Okay. Everything in Jiu-Jitsu comes with a trade-off. So I just showed the belly down version of the straight ankle versus the hips up, full extension, straight ankle. The second version that I showed, I actually believe is the strongest finish. It actually might be the strongest straight ankle finish that I know of, but it comes with an inherent risk if my opponent knows how to defend. So I'm going to teach you guys what the defense is. That way in real time, you'll make the decision based on what your opponent is doing on which one you want to apply. But I'll show you why I prefer them in the order in which I demonstrated them. So we're here, back to Ashi. Everything's the same positionally. Figure 4, I come in for my traditional Ashi closed circuit. He jumps over, I come up, okay? I showed the belly down, which I actually think is not quite as powerful here, okay? The reason that I don't go belly down like this is because I actually can't get my extension there if I just face plant my head. This break comes completely from my hips. So I get my hips low, and then I get full extension out, okay? I think that one is very powerful, but I think this one is more powerful. What do you think? Feels more powerful?
Yeah, this one.
Here. The risk with this one is if my opponent is very intelligent, what he can do is drive this foot up and then figure 4 with his back leg. There. And now, I can't get the break, okay? So, in the advanced leg lock world, this is not the end of the world. Keep it figure 4 here. I can start scoop gripping and transitioning into this inside Senkaku position that this channel has on other instructors. So that's a different instructional, all right? But all these leg locks feed together. So you see that this resistance, you will have answers for that as you advance, right? But your opponent has to be pretty advanced, or I've watched this instructional, to know how to resist this. So let's look at that one more time. We're here. He hops over. I come up. I go belly down here. I lock my hands, and I come here. This is the worry, that he's going to start extending this leg and then bringing his secondary leg. What did I talk about secondary leg? That's where our primary resistance is going to come from. So I might have to peel and then go back down and try to do the belly down one again. And again, if this guy's being super, super tough, he may just not tap. Okay, I think this one has better breaking potential, but also has the added risk of using that secondary leg to figure 4. Okay, and since I can't, if I'm doing beginner jiu-jitsu as a white belt or blue belt, I might not be able to do knee bars. I might not be able to do heel hooks. I might get in trouble just for going for inside triangle with the legs. So we want to get good at this position, but know that if he gets that figure 4, okay, I can start locking up toe holds here. I can start sitting in, attacking here at a later date, okay? So positionally, this is setting you up for success in the future, okay? So even if you're running into that and people learn this defense, when you start learning advanced techniques, the transition is going to be simple because you've already learned how to get into the position, you learned how to control, and so now we're just implementing more advanced breaking techniques on our strong foundation of our straight ankle.
Initiate a heist, like getting over, like a sweep, similar to something to sweep, or and start initiating guard passes. How can we do that from Ashi position? Yeah, that's the first question.
That's an excellent question, and this is one of the fundamental, beautiful things about this position. I absolutely believe that you should spend time developing a world-class finish for straight ankles, but you might come to Jiu Jitsu and be like, Paul, legs terrify me. I get that a lot. I gotta work on my feet for a living. I don't want anybody touching my legs. I don't want to touch anybody else's legs. Okay, those are all fair points, but I can show you some easy transitions we can make to, number one, make sure that we have really good resistance against good opponents, and number two, show you how you use the legs to pass the guard. So that's the primary question, and that's where we'll start. How do we use this position to start initiating guard passing as the person who has isolation on the leg? Okay, very simple. It's all about this hand. Here's the downside: is a good opponent, so like Ruslan here, is going to know right away what's happening. But against low, mid-level guys, you're probably going to start passing before they even know what's happening, because he's probably going to be trying to resist me here, like grabbing my hands, grabbing my head, going for that resistance. All I have to do to start initiating a passing sequence is to start bringing my hand from the overhook grip here to an underhook, sometimes known as like the waiter grip here, okay? Very simple. Is I'm just going to start taking my hand to the far side shoulder, okay? So I can control the leg, turn my hips, do a technical stand up, and pass to the other side, okay? This is like the most basic way to start using this traditional Ashi position to start passing. So now I have options. I can go attack, 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 and I come underneath, okay? I don't want to say that you can't attack from here as well. You can. There's the Mikey lock, where I pinch my head, control, and go here, okay? But that is more in the vicinity of like a heel hook or a toe hold, however they define it, right? I think it's considered a heel hook, okay? So you might not be ready for that, but you will know this position, so when you are ready for that, we can just start attacking, okay? Pitching the arm into the leg, moving my knees over, just coming up for a technical stand-up, blocking the hip, and then I could just go into a cradle if I wanted for the pass, okay? So that is like the most basic way that I'm going to start passing. Some other things that I can do, just like I showed with the belly down position or the hip up position, we can always turn that into a knee cut, right? And actually, you'll get into that position a lot. Under the Kaio system, it's called the Keymaster system. Check out kaiotera.com. All right. So when I'm coming up and I'm here like this, okay, I can always elect to peel, underhook, and then sit out into a nice knee cut pass. Okay. Another thing is if I'm passing, so let's say you're down and I'm passing and I'm in this knee cutting position, they might start bringing this foot up here. Okay, you'll see this a lot. Okay, or I might have my knees even like here, and he puts that foot here. So now I can come in, come down, attack there, or peel and pass for the knee cut pass. Okay, so those are some really simple options on how you can start playing around with these positions. So I always want to think about, I try to have like the shortest term memory possible when I'm attacking. So I'm just consistently attack, attack, attack. So if your attacks aren't working to get the finish, they can still work to help you advance positional dominance based on how your opponent responds. So if your opponent is super afraid of me having this leg, that they're jamming this foot to the mat, then that gives me essentially a free knee cut pass. Okay, so you can start using overreactions, especially when you, like, if you're associated with my team, people are expecting you to be going for legs. So they're going to have very visceral responses to your leg entanglements. And so we just wait for them to have those responses and then go into our traditional knee cut pass or our smash pass on the far side. So it's not that these exist outside of the jiu-jitsu you're already learning. We just learn to implement them on top of the guard passes that we already know.
So the second question is, like, we know that it's better to, for example, combine attacks. So lower body attacks are entirely different system, right? So it's not like you don't have to engage in guard passing, you just can attack the legs, right? So that's why in the traditional sense of jiu-jitsu, it kind of breaks the system. But how can you, for example, combine in like upper body attacks with lower body attacks? For example, if something fails, you can do the other one, or you can initiate reactions from one thing and then get the reaction from the second one. If you could show just like one or two good techniques, that would be great.
Yeah. Ruslan here is asking for my greatest secret in jiu-jitsu. And I'm happy to share it all with you today. All right. We are going to go a little more advanced here. Okay? So this will be towards the end. All right. Ruslan makes the best observation about modern day jiu-jitsu, which is there is always a trade-off between upper body and lower body attacks. Okay? Here is the quintessential trade-off that he cannot get around, and why people often say they have such a difficult time dealing with me. Because I can be pulling on the head, we have different attacks. I could go front headlock attack, but we're going to save that for another day. But traditional arm bar, we follow the right rule. My right elbow comes to my right hip, come out into the top lock position, wipe the brow, go for the arm bar. Now, he postures up, extracts his arm. He's very explosive. Okay, look how high his posture is. This means by its very nature that his hips are light. Okay, so that gives me into, this is known as K-guard entry, and I can start going in here. But, let's say, Paul, I'm still a white belt. I just learned what K-guard is in this moment. No problem. You can use K-guard to get into a straight ankle attack. I actually do it often. So, we go arm bar, attack, 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 come in, come in. He postures up, explodes up, comes out. I bring my knee to the inside position. I throw, look, my foot is on his hip, throw this leg out. This is known as K-guard, sometimes known as matrix guard, okay? But notice what I did not do. I did not reap him. Nothing is illegal. This is all white belt legal. All white belts can do this. I pull his leg to me, extract my foot, go into my reinforced wedge position, go into an outside leg attack. Okay? Now, when your opponent is over concerned about the legs, so say he's on his knees, so just two knees, right? He'll be like this. He'll be super heavy on the knees, and usually he'll be head forward, okay? When he's like this, I can start snapping him down, going front headlocks, start shooting in for triangles, okay? The more he commits to not getting leg locked, the more available the upper body. The more he explodes out and resists the upper body, the easier it is to transition into our legs for the finish, okay? A final note on this part is know what your rules are. If you'll be down, please. Under the IBJJF system, it is still illegal for most lower to middle belts to attack even a straight ankle if this knee rotates inside like this, okay? I don't support this rule, but this is the rule. So if he gets to this, I usually have to bail out and not get disqualified, okay? So make sure you're appropriately associated or understand what the rules are to make sure you don't get disqualified just through lack of knowledge.
Thank you. And so the third final question is, for example, when you go to outside Ashi, there's a way that you feel like maybe you're a little vulnerable to maybe counter leg attacks or the back takes. So what is the let's say scenario that you should be addressing when it comes to that? And what is like a set of moves that you do?
Excellent. So let's think defensively now. So I'll give you guys some defensive tactics. So he's going to be attacking my foot. Okay. One of the skills that I talked about were, in order for him to break me, he needs to break me down to a hip. So anytime that I teach defensively, like say I teach you a technique 1, 2, 3, 4, when you're being defensive minded, I want you to start deconstructing it back. So you want to think about, okay, he's in the fourth final step here, right? He's locking his hands together, about to go for his extension. So he's at the end. So I have to start working myself back to the third position, or the second position, or the first position, right? So if the attack is 1, 2, 3, 4, then the defense starts 4, 3, 2, 1, identifying which of those 4 or 5, whatever constitutes the move set that I'm in. So right now I know he's in the end stage. So I could be trying to reverse engineer where I peel his foot, work him back, and start going into the initial defense, right? Early recognition is the best defense, but sometimes we get deep, okay? He's worried about someone taking his back from here. That's a great concern. So in order to make that happen, again, one of the skills is he needs to break me down. So that means one of my defensive skills is I have to learn to build up to a hip to start stopping his breaking potential, right? If I can get my foot flat to the mat, he essentially cannot break me from here, okay? With some minor exception. But here he just cannot extend his spine in order to get the finish, okay? So he's worried. Several different things that I can do from here, like the wedge back take and all those kinds of things. Or if I can just turn my knee out, come here, right? And if I can start forcing him, I can start looking to take his back from here, okay? So that's his primary concern, right? Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. So his primary concern is getting broken down like that. Very good thoughts here, okay? He already has some intuition on how we resist this, okay? I start coming in here. I'm in the outside Ashi. Number one, first thing I notice is you're still coming here, okay? So if you're here, you're at a higher risk of getting your back taken. And let's say this person's been doing the right thing, using the counter hand, smushing this down, and then forcing themselves up. Yes? This is what you're running into, okay? Lots of different things I can do here. All right, so go ahead and do that. All right, I can do as you considered, which is to split my legs here, okay? The problem with this is I might be able to get the finish, I might not. And now you can start pushing my legs away more here, okay? And then you start to escape. All right, and then come up. Okay, that's our concern. So let's look at it again. Lots of ways to counter this. Okay, we have our preliminary ways that we counter it positionally, and then I'll throw in a little bonus content for the gram. Okay, so we're here, he starts extracting, or starts pushing and coming down. Okay, what I can do is start going scoop grip between my legs here. Okay, I want you to try to take my back from here. And then I Granby to this position. I get my feet on the hips, extend, break back down, and get the break. Okay? So our guiding principle here is I'm trying to get my feet to your hips. Let's look at it again. If I can get my feet to your hips, I can break you back down. Because that's the interplay here. He's trying to build up to a hip off of a broken down hip. I'm trying to knock him back down. If I just let him do this, smash me down, and I stay here, he's taking my back. I don't want that at all, okay? No good. So this is where our warm-ups come into place, guys. Those dreaded warm-ups, all those stupid Granby rolls you have to do, they are practical when done correctly. So he starts breaking me down, pushing the knee. I start scooping the knee so I can turn it in, okay? See how I'm turning your knee in? Mm-hmm. Hard for you to take my back from here, yes? Yep. And then I take my feet to your hips. So see how I'm wedging my feet back to your hips? Now I can do like a leg press. I'm very strong here, okay? Because in order to pass my guard, you have to have this knee out, right? You can't take my back from here, can you?
No.
too much pressure on the knee, right? If I let that go, take my back. Easy, right? Let's do it again. So it's all about the rotation of the knee, okay? And it comes down to the structure of the knee. The knee is not meant to corkscrew, right? We have the ligaments in the knee, the cruciate ligaments, and the two outside ligaments. It's meant to hinge, not rotate, right? That's where most of the injuries to the knee come from. So as I'm here, and I'm here, you're flattening me down, smashing me down. I'm coming in, turning the knee in. Okay, so now it's impinged. Your knee is impinged. Okay, so keep trying to take my back. Keep trying. Keep trying. Like Granby. Get my feet to your hip, extend, and break. Okay? That's going to be the biggest one. Is going to be getting it on, getting onto the, getting my feet back to your hip. So, the other thing that I can do, so we're going to look at that one more time from this angle, here and here. Okay, you're pushing, I'm coming down, my legs are open, that's no problem. I have to get this hand scooped and start turning that knee in. As you come up, I'm tucking my chin and I'm Granbying. See how I Granby like that? And then my feet end up here. Okay, in an advanced scenario, I can start going here. Okay, in a lower belt scenario, I extend, turn the knee back out, and break here. Okay, so control the knee position so it can't turn out, and then get the feet back to the hip so I can break them back down.
Thank you so much,
Makes
Paul.
sense? Of course, of course. Ruslan, congratulations to him, recently promoted to purple belt. Has a lot of advanced questions as well. So we've laid the foundation here. This is going to give you a lot of either complementary options or new options if you're new to the leg lock game. Okay, Ruslan's interested in the same sequence that he was worried about. It's very popular to try to take the back, and I promised him that I would show him and the rest of you some advanced technique here as well on what I would do if someone's trying to threaten my back and some of the modern ways that people do that. Okay, the biggest thing for me is I competed at the higher levels, and so I spent a lot of time working on the ability to use the reap in order to get there. Okay, so as we talked about previously, if you're a lower level competitor or you're new, you want to avoid reaping because you're probably going to get disqualified at local tournaments. However, you should not fear the reaper, but learn to love the reap, okay? Because when in doubt, reap the knee. That's kind of my philosophy, all right? So, it is a powerful technique that allows for strong breaking potential. That's why you don't get to it until you're more advanced, all right? So, if I'm going for, let's say, outside straight ankle attack, number one, I could be just trying to do a heel lift and going for the outside heel hook, right? So I'm trying to draw the pistol in, come in, and get my attack here, okay? And what you're going to be doing is hiding that heel super hard so I can't really get this and I can't get the heel hook, right? So now you start to build up. So as you start to build up and I do that same Granby, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my foot all the way across here for my outside heel hook pressure. Okay. So if I'm countering in a world where I can do heel hooks, this is what I'm looking for when someone's trying to force up and come up for that technique. This way. So I'm here, outside position. Maybe I try to go for the heel, or he's hiding it. He's trying to pass. I open up, bring my foot all the way across, get my outside heel exposure. I could go butterfly grip. This is a very powerful grip here. Okay, or we could go standard grip. Yeah, but the butterfly one is probably more powerful. Okay. So, if someone's trying to take my back, I'm going to try to use that position. Okay. One more kind of semi-advanced position is, let's say I'm in traditional, so standard outside Ashi, right? And then you start building up here, okay? And then he peels that, yes! And I come here, okay? Now I'm going to take this into sometimes known as the shadow butterfly hook here, and then I'm going to do a back shoulder roll, because what he wants to do, he wants to big back step. Yes, yes. That's what everyone loves to do, right? All right, so I have shadow butterfly hook, standard butterfly hook. He goes to try to big back step. I backwards roll. Come into my belly down position, okay? That is technically legal at the lower levels, but it's a very advanced move, right? You have to know how to Granby. You got to know how to switch to butterfly. So a lot of things going on here. Shooting in, shoot up for that traditional Ashi. Maybe he built up that way. I go right into my reverse butterfly hook. I extend. I do a back shoulder roll into one of my two positions that I showed earlier. Okay? Or we might fall into this position here. And then from here, what do we have, Ruslan?
Okay.
The Aoki lock. Okay, this one I actually did learn from Kaio here. We'll look at that. Okay, so we'll finish here on how to do the Aoki lock. All right, guys, let's finish up and look on how to do the Aoki lock. We're going to look at the breaking mechanic, and then I'll show you how to get everything put together through that last sequence. Again, this is for our advanced students, but this will give you a bit of foreshadowing into exactly how having that strong straight ankle will give you the setups for more advanced attacks in the future, because you've learned the control, you've learned the position. Now you just got to transition and start breaking people, okay? When I'm in this grip here, that 10-finger grip, the way that I get the Aoki is by moving the heel into the pinching of my ribs. You're already feeling it, yes?
Yeah, there's tension.
Tension here. Okay, now I can lock my hands and start going for the break. Okay, let's look at another angle. So, the difference between the straight ankle and the Aoki is it really forms into like a heel hook. Okay? So before I was rolling the toes and I was keeping his heel on the inside of my wrist. Now I allow his heel to slip ever so slightly, okay? But I can't be loose here because he's just going to keep turning his foot and then extract his foot, okay? So your hand, as this foot slips out, has to go super high here, okay? So that heel comes from outside to inside of my chest. The crook of my arm goes super high. Okay, this hand can't be too high. Okay, now he tries to extract his foot. No go, right?
To build defense, yeah.
He already wants the top. Okay, and notice I have no isolation on his leg, so I'm just showing you the finishing mechanic. Much as we saw earlier, we want to know where our goal is. Where do our hands need to be to get the finish? So I go from, look, I'm way up here, straight ankle, slide my arm down, straight ankle, start to slip that foot out. Now it starts being considered really a heel hook. Aoki lock, I think, is considered a heel hook. Bring that hand high. He already wants the top. Yeah, pressure?
Yeah, so like I have to, yeah.
Yeah, look, see how he has to raise his hips? You know you got good pressure if they have to raise their hips to alleviate that pressure. Okay? Now we put it together where I have my inside or shadow butterfly hook. I bring that heel into my chest, bring my hands high, as high as I can, lock it together, and then I start to fall towards his knee. Yeah. Look, he taps so early here. Okay? I remember when I first saw Kaio show this, he's like, okay, now we go all the way down in competition. Okay? You're just going to blow somebody's knee out. So be very cautious with this. I can even throw my other leg over. Remember, how did he want to resist earlier? Elevating his hip, right? So now I put my weight into him, and he taps, okay? So if I don't have isolation, he can get his hips in the air and prevent the attack, right? So I start slipping, hand goes high, 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 high. Look, he can alleviate that pressure. That's why we have this hook. I start to bring my other leg over, and I start to fall towards his knee. Notice he taps, okay? In a world-class competition setting, I'm going belly down. Here, okay? I'm not going to give him the time to tap. I'm going to come in, super high, pressure, leaning out. Here, okay? So in a world where I did not like Ruslan so much, I would just fall into it.
This world.
Huh?
This world.
This world. Don't like him. Here. Okay? Notice he taps here. Alright? Let's look at it on the other foot as well so we can get multiple angles. So, just like before, okay? We're here. He peels over, hook underneath, bring the arm out, go for the tap. Okay? So that's the next level. Once you learn all those traditional straight ankles, once you start getting to that purple belt level, now you're ready to add in this shadow butterfly, block the hip,